Welcome back to Rooted in the Caribbean, our Women in Leadership series. I'm really ecstatic about introducing our next guest, the phenomenal Ali-Kerr. She is HR Director for Andaz Miami Beach Hyatt Hotels and has been an HR Director and HR practitioner for over 23 years. She's also the author of The Master Guide to Leadership Through the Lens of Care, a book that takes us through really in-depth study of what it means to be a caring leader. And she's done phenomenal work with young people through her serving on the board of the Academy of Hospitality and Tourism in Miami, as well as the South Florida Hospitality Human Resource Association. Aka is a really generous and always engaging and happy. She has such a bubbly personality. It's really a pleasure to have her join us today. And I would love for you to just sit back and listen to her talk us through a passion for people, a passion for faith in God, and what it means to be a woman in leadership. Welcome, Aka. It is so lovely to have you join today. Thank you for accepting this invitation to just be part of this leadership series.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for thinking about me. Thank you for considering me. I'm truly humbled. Just the opportunity to be seen and asked to pay forward and add value. Always humbling. So thank you.
Thank you. My I guess thought process was that there are so many young women out there who are just longing to have people that they can look up to as mentors and just in terms of sharing. So I'm gonna take you back a bit and then bring us back to present.
Let's go on this journey. Let's go.
Awesome. So as it says on the tin, rooted in the Caribbean. What are your Caribbean roots? I know you're currently in Florida, but what are your Caribbean roots?
I am Trinity to the bone. Listen,
amazing.
I am actually every time I go anywhere in the US and people say, "Where's that accent from?" I am so excited to say Trinity to the bone, red, white, and black, all the way, all the way. So I was born in Trinidad. I did my first degree in Miami, came back home to do my postgraduate. And then 3 years ago, I got this amazing opportunity through Hyatt because I was the HR director at Hyatt Regency Trinidad. And then an opportunity came for me to be transferred to the US in my same capacity at a different hotel on Miami Beach. So here I am.
On the Miami Beach.
On the Miami Beach. Listen, I needed to make sure I had sea, sun, and sand. That had to be consistent.
Yes.
So I am in Miami for the last 3 years, still working for Hyatt. An amazing opportunity for myself and by extension my family. To continue my career in Miami.
And for you, I guess that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you about. Do you feel that your roots, your Caribbean roots, I know you're in Sun, Sea, and Sand now, but do you think it's been translated to the new environment?
Oh, absolutely. You know why? Working in hospitality, people of the Caribbean, we love people, we are warm and friendly. So me acclimatizing was easy because I am who I am. I love people. I love to see people happy, love to see people smile. So hospitality has actually made it easier for me. And working for Hyatt has made it easy because Hyatt has been able to establish a culture that is pervasive regardless of where you are. Because it's really about living our purpose of caring for people so they could be their best. So
Wow.
that has really helped me with my transition from Trinidad to the US.
Into right. But
Yes.
then you also have having studied there, it
Yes.
wasn't that difficult for you to make that
Correct.
transition as
Yes.
well.
Yes. I always said, and this is, I'm a woman of faith, want to declare it right now. And
Yes.
I always said, God, if you have me go anywhere, I want to start in Miami because Miami,
Ah,
I feel a home away from home. And that's because, as you said, I did my
you
first
studied.
degree at
Yeah.
Nova Southeastern University years ago. So
Yeah.
Miami, I always had a leaning, you know. And you know, Trinidadians, Caribbean people, Miami is for shopping, right?
Yeah.
So
For sure.
Miami for us is our mall. So
Yeah.
Miami
Whether it's
was definitely,
Sawgrass or Aventura.
or
Yeah.
Dolphin.
Yes.
So Miami really, really was somewhat that a place that resonated with me, and I
Yeah.
felt that the integration was easier in Miami because it's such a melting pot.
Yeah.
Miami, it has that the Hispanic, the Haitian, the Caribbean. So
Yeah.
you
And
still
the
go
warmth.
and the warmth.
Yeah.
So you still go places and you may hear an accent and you'll be like, ah, you know. So I really
Sounds
felt
familiar.
a place, yes, a familiarity, yes.
Yeah. So Aka, what does I mean, I am so I have to say I'm really, really, really proud of what you've done with your
Oh,
book.
thank you, thank you,
Um,
thank you.
Talk to us about leadership through the lens of care and what does it mean for you to be a trailblazing woman in leadership?
Wow. That's such an amazing question. I'm going to be a little vulnerable.
Okay.
I never wanted to write a book.
Okay.
I I wrote this book scared. Actually, I
Right.
spoke this book.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about a Jonah experience I had. I was in the belly of the whale.
Yeah. We know about those.
In 2020,
Yeah.
I had a prophetic word from one of my pastors. Akka, you have a book inside of you. You know, I was trying to be nice, so I smiled and I said, thank you, Pastor. But I walked away so disobedient. Oh my goodness. I'm like, I'm not writing a book. This is not happening. I'm not going to put my work out there. People are not nice. I don't want to be part of that 1% of the population in the world that writes a book. I walked away. A year passed, COVID happened.
Yeah.
So many of my colleagues were calling and saying, Akka, how do you keep your staff at Hyatt Regency Trinidad engaged in a crisis? And I was inundated with calls because I was able to maintain a level of engagement even in the midst of a storm. So people were asking, Akka, what are you doing? And then Holy Spirit said, Akka, that is why I told you you have a book inside of you. So are you going to continue to be disobedient? Tell me. So I had a little fight, I had a little battle. Me and Jesus had a little showdown. And then he said, you like to help people. This is your opportunity to help people you may never meet.
Right.
And I said, all right, okay, all right, God, you have your way. Have your way. And then he said, don't write your book, speak your book, because you have power in your tongue. I gave you power in your tongue.
Right.
So what I did for 6 months, every
Yeah.
day after church, I spoke a chapter of my book.
Right.
I recorded a chapter, I spoke it. So when you read my book, you hear my voice. Because that is how I wrote the book. It was through my tongue, it was through my voice. Because I
Yeah.
wanted it to be an easy read.
Right.
Many times you buy books and it's filled with jargon and what does this mean? This don't make
Yeah.
no sense.
And how do you relate to
And
it?
how do you relate? But my book, I needed it to be relatable, sorry. Because I love people.
Yeah.
People are my heart. And I think to lead people, you have to love people. So I wrote this book through the lens of, I want to help you be better.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to steward the people you have the honor to lead. So
Yeah.
this book was from disobedience, Jonah experience, COVID, and then I said, okay, I give up. You know what? I surrender all, God.
Have your way. Yeah.
So
and I
that's why I
think
wrote the
it's
book.
and I think the concept of through the lens of care is such a unique concept because often
Yes,
you
yes,
hear leadership spoken about with the from the context of compassion
yes,
or servant leadership
yes,
or but
yes,
care
yes,
just took it to a different dimension. You
yes,
literally have to stop
yes,
and
that's
think,
right. That's
what does
right.
that mean? Yeah.
Yes, because care is a verb. It's not a
Mm,
noun, it's not an adjective. Many people say that they care, but you could only show that you care with your actions.
yeah.
And care is only care when the person receiving care acknowledges they feel cared for.
Very true.
Because sometimes, as leaders, we assume, Aka, this is what care looks like for you, and it looks the same way for
For
Dominique.
someone
It
else.
doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have to meet people at their point of need, and that's the thing about care with leadership. Many times, leaders do not pivot, they
Mm.
keep it with a brush, but that's not what care is. And
Yeah.
my mother always told me this. She said, Aka, care is only care when the person acknowledges that they feel cared for.
Mm.
So how do you do that as a leader? And that's why I wrote this book. Because it's
Right.
leadership through the lens of care.
Yeah.
Everything that you do as a leader, do it through the lens of care. If you have
Yeah.
to hold somebody accountable, do it through the lens of care.
Lens of care.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a policy, do it through the lens of care. If
Yeah.
you're going to have an attitude with people, do it through the lens of care. Everything, use care. And when you do
Mhm.
that, people follow you not because of your title,
Yeah.
but because of who you are.
And because they feel
Cared
genuinely
for.
cared for. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And
Okay.
people, many times, Gallup did a survey recently, and they said 70% or more people leave leaders and not organizations.
Yeah.
And that's because you don't have an authentic connection with the person. You don't
With the
feel cared
individual.
for. You don't feel
Yeah.
cared for. So if I
Yeah.
don't have that loyalty, I'm going to leave. What if
Gonna leave.
And that's what happened with the great resignation after the pandemic.
Yes.
People
Yeah.
left leaders because you didn't care that I had an ailing mother at home. You didn't care that I didn't have internet. So working students working from home. What did that look
Yeah.
like at your home?
Yeah.
I don't have internet. How is my child going to do an assignment without internet? Walk me through that. And that was pervasive in Trinidad because a lot
Yeah.
of our areas, we didn't have the
Wow.
infrastructure. So although you said about school from home, how did that show up in reality?
There
When
might be one phone that's being shared. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, I don't have a laptop. So
Hmm.
do it from what? What device? You
Yeah.
know? I don't have any infrastructure. Or is 3 people in the house that go to school? How are we going to share this one laptop?
One laptop.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think going through the crisis, that really resonated with me. And I wanted to let leaders know that if you cannot lead in a crisis, then
Yeah.
you're not effective as a leader.
Yeah.
Because
Makes
leading
sense.
when things are on autopilot,
It's not really
correct. A pilot's
a true
skills is
test.
only tested when there's turbulence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what happens with leadership.
Yeah, and I mean that's and how do you think that so if you just think about it from the woman's perspective,
Mm,
is I mean we as women are thought of as maternal
yes,
and empathetic
yes.
and do you think there is a greater burden on
Mm,
women as
mm.
leaders?
I love that question so much. 2 weeks ago, I was on a panel talking about women empowerment. And
Hmm.
in my research, over 52% of women in hospitality are part of the workforce.
Right.
However, only 30% are in leadership. So
Mm,
why? Why is it that we start off in hospitality, but then we
yeah.
do not go up that, as they say, the food chain and
Yeah.
break that glass ceiling? And there are a
Yeah.
couple of reasons why. Women, we are intimidated by putting our hand up when we think we don't know everything on an ad. We want to wait until we're absolutely ready 100% before we apply for a job, right? Because that's how we are, because we're meticulous by nature. But men don't do that. I've had interviews with men and I ask them, tell me about your experience in this area. They say, I don't have that, but I know I could learn. And I hear that more in interviews with men than women.
Yeah.
Because we wait for perfection, because that's our leaning. That's what we have been taught by society, that we have to be perfect. But I'm here to remove that myth. That myth, we don't have to be perfect. Perfection, that was done by one person. He died 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
We have to do it scared. Because if we don't do it scared, then we do not get to be around the strategic table. And our voices are required because of our high emotional intelligence, because we have empathy, because we can meet people at our point of need, because that's what we do. We're wives.
Yeah.
We're daughters.
Mothers.
We're friends. We're mothers. And we do that. We're good at multitasking. That's what we do. We are preparing dinner while on the phone and we mopping.
I know that feeling. And throwing clothes into the washing machine.
Clothes.
Yeah.
We are multitaskers at heart. And I want women to embrace it, that it doesn't only happen in the household. We can multitask while we're at work. We are better than we think. We need to give ourselves grace. Give ourselves the grace to run our race. And don't let fear to dim your light.
And that concept of the fear, leaning into the fear. You spoke about it with respect to the book, because you said you did it fearful.
Absolutely, I did it scared. I was vulnerable. Scared. I did it. But what is fear, Dominique? It's false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
What fear is.
So we don't need that in our lives.
Listen, sometimes we are fearful about things that never happen.
Yeah.
I was also doing some research recently, because I like to ensure that when I make a pronouncement, it's based on facts and data.
Yeah.
We have over 70,000 thoughts a day.
Wow.
90% of those thoughts are negative. And we transfer 80% of those thoughts into the next day.
Right. Yeah, because you wake up.
Correct.
And actually, you know what you do? You wake up and you think, what was I thinking about before I went to sleep last night again?
And then you go and you pull it from the sea of forgetfulness, because that's where Jesus
back
is.
Back
you
into
decide, you know what, I'm going to worry about this again today. Right?
Yeah.
And we go through all the different permutations of why not.
Yeah.
Why I will not be successful. Why I will be late. Why would the meeting be difficult? Why people don't like me? And we go through all of that, and it never actualizes.
Yeah.
So we have to be intentional about our thoughts, because our thoughts transfer into actions.
Yeah. And on that note, what would you say was the defining moment, or one of the defining moments in your career as a leader?
I'm so happy that you asked me.
How did you translate those thoughts into action?
When I found Jesus.
Okay.
My confidence comes with my covenant with God.
Right.
I decided I can't do this thing alone.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what, God, if you want me to lead and you want me to serve, teach me. And then he took me to Matthew 20.
Right.
He says, I came here to serve and not to be served. I said, so this is what this leadership thing is about. It is about not waiting for someone to serve you, but you serving.
Yeah.
Because everything about leadership we find in this book. The greatest book.
The Bible. Yeah.
Everything I tell you, how to speak to people, treat others how you want to be treated.
Yeah. Love your neighbors
Love your
yourself.
neighbors, you love yourself.
Yeah.
Serve. I came here to serve and not to be served. So the best leadership book is really the Bible. But and so I found the principles of leadership in the Bible.
Through your diving
Through
into
my
the Word of
covenant
God.
with God.
Yeah.
Because I want to ensure that I have clean hands and a pure heart.
Yeah.
So, and I have enough to answer for. I don't want to have to answer
This is true.
how I talk to people, how I lead people.
Yeah.
And then another thing that dawned on me, and this is a parable that was used in the Bible.
Yeah.
And God gave 3 people some talents. And
Yes.
I said to myself, God, you give me this talent. I don't want to just give you back the talent and then you
No,
tell
I don't
me
want to dig a hole and
bury it. And you tell me that I'm selfish. So I said, you know what? This talent that you have given
has
me,
to be used for purpose.
it has to multiply tenfold.
Yeah.
How do I multiply tenfold? I need to lead people. I need to steward. I need to understand that leadership is a badge of honor, not a badge of power.
Yeah.
So that is how I ensure that I show up. I'm intentional. Of course, you know what? There are days I'm scared. I go into a strategic table. I'm the only woman around the table, the only person that looks like me and sounds like me. But I know that me and God have the majority. So I say, okay, God, you're coming. You're sitting down next to me. You're going to make sure I say the right thing. You're going to give me wisdom, knowledge with understanding.
Yeah.
So that I choose my words, that you would say, well done. Well done, good and faithful servant. Because that's who I ultimately report to.
Yeah. And that's such a, I think most times when you talk to anyone about whether male or female about leadership, there is this hesitation to say, where what's it rooted in?
Yeah.
And the thing is, the root that we have as believers is being able to talk to our Heavenly Father before we do
Listen,
whatever.
I see counsel with him all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
Even in the middle of the meeting, I praying in my mind, oh Lord, Holy Spirit, have your way, have your way. And I am just in making sure that he has a space that he can enter and he uses me.
Yeah. And that wisdom that he's giving you,
That's right,
you're
it's not
able
me.
to translate. Yeah.
I always tell people, they're like, oh my gosh, you speak so well, you answered. I said, it's not me.
Yeah.
Just use
The
me.
God
You
in
can use
me.
anybody else.
Yeah. And again, as the Word of God says, we don't want we don't want the stone to rise up.
That's right. Listen.
So we want to
Listen.
be used.
I want to be used. God, use me for your honor and your glory.
And your glory. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I want to say something about many times believers feel that our light must only shine in church.
Yeah.
We are supposed to be in the marketplace.
Hmm.
Everyone who loves Jesus can't be only in church, serving in church.
Yeah.
The lost are in the dark. They're in the marketplace. We have to be in the marketplace. That's when we are going to evangelize. Not by regurgitating the Bible.
Yeah.
By treating people with respect.
Yeah. And so when they see it,
They see your light. They gravitate towards the light. And then we have the opportunity. People ask me, Akka, how come you're always so happy? Like, you don't ever...
I don't ever remember you without a smile on your face. I will say that.
And then I would say, the joy of the Lord is my strength. And they're like,
yeah.
So you always have that joy? I said, yes. That's what he gives you. You want to know more about him?
Yeah.
And that's how I get into talking. But it's because of my light. It's because of my joy. It's because I always respond and I don't react. I don't allow my emotions to get the best of me. So then I have to then pull back and say, you know what? That wasn't Christ-like.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that we as believers, we need to understand that our presence in church as well as in marketplace.
Yeah.
We have to be there. But we have to be light and salt wherever we go.
We go. Yeah.
And people must know we are Christians by our love. That's a song, right?
That's taking us really far back, Aka. That's
Yes,
aging
well, you
us
know what? I'm going to age myself a little bit. They must know we are Christians by our
by
love.
our love. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure. What would you want your daughter, your niece, what would you want the next generation to understand from our experiences as women in leadership? What are some of the pitfalls you'd
Yeah.
want them to avoid?
Yes. Do not allow your opinion not to be shared because you're scared.
Yeah.
Do not allow you being in the minority to diminish your influence.
Wow, that's awesome.
Do not allow fear to cripple you to the extent where you are silent. See, Dominique, each one of us has a purpose.
Yep.
Your purpose is different to my purpose. When you don't step into your purpose, that God-given purpose, then the world is deprived of that purpose.
Yeah.
And I want people to understand, my daughter, I do have a daughter, as you know. Be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Self-care is not selfish. You cannot pour from an empty cup.
Very true.
Fill your cup and then pour into other people's cup. And it's important that we understand that failure is on the journey of success. We have all failed.
Yeah, definitely.
But just fail forward. So when you get up, your steps ahead. Learn from your mistakes. But get up you must. Get up, look up. Ask him, God, what was the lesson in this?
Yeah.
And we can't have testimonies without a test. How? What are we going to testify of? What?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
So you
tell
have
my
to
daughters,
have those
you have to
experiences. Yeah.
use those testimonies. Share it. Because people would know, okay, Aka did it. Aka failed. Then I could do it. You know, many times we are embarrassed by our tests. That's the enemy, you know. That's the enemy. That's what we want to do. Steal, kill, and destroy. But I'm going to testify of God's love, His grace, His mercy, His favor.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell my daughter. And don't be so hard on yourself. God gives us mercy that's new every morning. You're not giving yourself the mercy that God is giving you?
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make
The
any
two
sense.
don't
Yes,
combine. Yeah.
And you are not, don't label yourself by the mistake that you made. You made a mistake. You are not a mistake.
Yeah.
And many times we walk around with these labels. I'm a failure. I made a mistake. No. Learn from it. But you are not a mistake. You're not a failure.
And also to that point, a lot of young people that I've spoken to over the years, they say to me, when I look at when they look at successful people, they assume that they haven't made mistakes, or they assume that they haven't failed at anything, that they've just suddenly, become successful overnight. And they don't see the grind. They don't see
but you know why?
the background.
Because many people don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Because especially social media. Social media has us in a place where everything has to be perfect, right? I get up, I look like this. No, I don't. My hair was not looking like this. I can assure you when I got up this morning. I was not. And I think social media has also put more pressure on the younger people because they have this high expectation that I have to do this, I have to be this, I have to look like this, right? And it's just understanding that you are fearfully, wonderfully made. Like you are. There's only one you. 8 billion people in the world.
But one you.
One you.
Yeah.
And God loves you. He made you in his own image and likeness. Like, what?
Yeah.
I think that we have to embrace our failure, talk about it, so that the generations that are looking at us, they understand that fail you must.
Yeah.
But get up. It's critical.
Yeah, I had a chairman who would say, fail fast.
Just fail fast.
And it's
Fail
like
fast and
it's
fail
inevitable.
Forward. Yeah, you're gonna fail. Fail fast, fail forward.
But learn from it
But just
and move
learn.
on.
And that's the thing about failing forward. Because when you get up, your steps ahead. So you could look back and say, oh, I was there. But you know what?
But this is where I am now.
Because I failed forward. Because we're going to fail. Yeah. And how boring life would be. Listen.
I know.
Listen, the fact that we are on a platform, you are in London, I'm in Miami.
Yeah.
Somebody failed.
Before they established this technology.
With voice over IP. Somebody failed with voice over IP. Because that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
They didn't just get up and say, oh, I could do this thing. Yeah. No.
And the funny thing is, we probably will, unless we go and research it, we probably will never know who actually nailed it.
Correct.
You know?
Because many people failed. Many people. The fact that we have lights, the fact that we fly, that's failure. That's inundated with failures. But those persons didn't give up. And so we are walking
through that came
their
success.
faith. Correct. So we have to think about it through those lens. The fact that whatever we are experiencing now in 2025 is because of years of failure.
True. And what do you currently, like in your current, I know when I looked at your background, your bio, you do a lot of voluntary stuff.
Yes.
Why is that important for you as a woman in leadership?
Because we have to leave a legacy.
You're preempting my question, but yes.
Listen, and I have a heart for young people. And you would see, being on the board of the Academy of Hospitality and Tourism, that's young people. That's young people who are wondering, should I get into hospitality? What is in it for hospitality? It's important that we understand that our present situation is not our final destination.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be here all the time. And the knowledge I have is not for me. I already know it. It is to pay forward and add value to people who are coming.
Yeah.
I need to pour into them. I always make this analogy of a plant. You can have the best seed, and if it's not fertilized and poured into, it will die.
Yeah.
My role as a leader is to create the right environment and be the nutrients, whether it's water, whether it's sunlight, whether it's eggshells, whatever it is.
So funny.
Listen, that's my purpose in life. And I need to leave people better than when I met them.
Yeah, for sure. And that was the other question I was going to ask you. How would you describe your leadership legacy in 3 words?
I'm going to give you 6. Because it's part of my book. So I'm going to give you the 6 mandates in my book.
Yeah.
It's care with action.
Yes.
Consistency with accountability.
Yes.
And competence with the right attitude.
Wow. What a legacy, Akka.
That's it. When you think of me, think of those 6 mandates. And that's the yardstick that I hold myself accountable. Those 6 mandates are part of what I do every day, part of what I say every day, and how I show up every day.
Yeah. And I guess the last thing I want to ask you is about, when we talked, you spoke earlier about the I think you said 70,000
Yes,
thoughts
thoughts.
per
Uh-huh.
day. What, how are you able to push the negative? It's 80% that's negative. How are you able to push those negative thoughts to the back and show up as a woman in leadership?
It's hard. Every day, I have to be intentional.
Mm,
And sometimes I faith it until I make
mm,
it.
right.
I know people say fake it. I don't fake it. I faith it.
Faith
So,
it.
I am the head and not the tail. I'm above and not beneath. No weapon formed against me shall
Yeah.
prosper. So
And you
I
have to
use the
keep
word of
reminding
God
yourself.
as my affirmation as to how he sees me.
Yeah.
And I have to speak it because I understand I have power in my tongue. So when
Hmm.
I speak it, I know that he will never leave me nor forsake me. I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, you spoke a book into
Listen, I
existence.
spoke a book into. Listen, and I want to tell people don't allow fear to cripple you. I'm standing here, sitting here
Mm.
actually, telling you that you can do
Yeah.
all things through Christ who strengthens you. And God
Yeah.
doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah. For sure.
And the world is
For sure.
waiting. The world is waiting on us, us
Yeah.
women, waiting, for us to step into our purpose.
Yeah.
Yes, so,
And not be fearful.
yes, so, yes, yes, so that's what I would share.
Okay. That's really, really, really impactful. I
Yeah,
mean, I think so many people will be able to that it will resonate with so many
yes,
people. So
yeah.
thank you for being so open, honest,
Oh,
vulnerable. I really appreciate it.
you're welcome. I mean, it's my pleasure. Again, thank you. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for trusting me enough. Because I take this seriously. Like how
Yeah.
I show up, how I represent women. And I just want to tell women that you are amazing, you are blessed, you're beautiful. And the world is waiting on you. So,
Just
yeah,
waiting.
just waiting.
Thank you, Akko.
You're welcome.